What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dominic. Listen, nobody knows me, right? I'm just an average dude doing average things, right? Trying to be sure that the future that we have aligned with our families intact, with our manhood, our brotherhood, our sisterhoods, and how we respond to situations essentially as men is intact through the work that we do, right? So I was talking to a few fellas back a few weeks ago, and this has been something that's been on my mind. I mean, on my heart for the very longest, right? And what that is how can I do my part to help men be better, right? Uh, I'm not a perfect man. I don't think there's nobody is a perfect man. We are imperfect people just because that's who we are. Regardless of what your religious beliefs are, we are imperfect. But what I think we can do is do better to be more harmonistic in our actions with one another as men, with our spouses, with our significant others, and vice versa with the ladies as well. Trying to help understand who they are in the relationship, right, to us. Um, Hell, we've all had these situations come up where you and your spouse, you're trying to figure out where you guys meet in the middle, or who's giving more, or who's not doing enough, or this or that. And life shouldn't be about what somebody is or isn't doing, especially in a relationship with someone you're in relationship with. And so, um, talking to some fellas, right? Talking to some guys, just through the years and having a better understanding of who I am, I felt really compelled to have this conversation, right? And so, this conversation on the couch, you have to excuse all of the messed up pillows. I told you I'm a regular dude. Um, and because I'm a regular dude, right? I think this is why it's important for me to have this conversation, right? On the couch with you guys, so that we can, as being in relationship with one another, being in relationship with our spouses, we can become better partners in this thing called life, right? That does not mean my relationship with my brothers and my sisters, right, has to suffer. That doesn't mean that, right, one relationship is put above the other as it relates to external relationships, right? But we interconnected, right, through the relationships we have. So it's only fitting, right, for us to act as if we have a vested interest in each other. Now, I'm going full disclaimer right now. I'm not a professional. I'm nobody's PhD. I'm nobody's doctor. I'm nobody's therapist. I am none of those things. But what I am is an average dude that has very similar situations like you, whether now or in the past. Hell, maybe even in the future. Who knows? But it's our responsibility to take those things that may come up and understand how, one, we got there, what we can do to fix it, and how we never get there again, right? And when I say never, never is such a big word as it relates to not doing something again, but we can do our very best to ensure that the path that we walk at least lends us the opportunity to make the right decisions. And again, that's really what life is all about. You have a decision or an indecision, and neither one is a decision. So it really just depends on the direction that you want to go, right? And that's why I'm here. That's what this platform is about. We are going to have regular conversations with the working class folk, right? I'll do an interview with somebody, uh, not to suggest superstars and all those, the rich people don't have problems, because we know they all do. But those are the people that pay for $1,000 an hour sessions, whereas people like you and I, we don't have that kind of money to do so, right? And if we do, is it working, right? So that's what this is for, right? An opportunity for you and I to connect, for me to connect with you, and everyone have an understanding of how we can move forward together. So this series, right, I've deemed, it's fractured, right? And as we know what fractured means, it's something that's broken, because right now, not just in the black community, but in the community of love, the relationships are broken because there's a lack of what understanding of love is and communication, right? I remember having a conversation with several people, right? And I've asked several people these questions. The number one question was, what does unconditional love mean to you? Right? Stop. What does unconditional love means to you? What does loving unconditionally means to you? Right? Because when we think about what unconditional love is, or when I think about what unconditional love is, right? And granted, again, I'm just learning all of these things as well, because I've been on what would be considered a self exploration mission to understand who Dominic is, why Dominic did the things that he did, how can I make things better for my children, how can I make things better in my relationship, and how can I make things better, period, in my life as a whole, right? And so I started there, right? One of the a book that I read, and it was a really, really dynamic book, and I will tell you what it is. Once I can understand how all these, shout outs and plugs, because I certainly want to give credit where credit is due, because other than the Bible, I think this book was probably one of the most dopest books I've read, right? And the book itself is a book that's really centered around how to find the love in a relationship that's about to be dissolved, essentially, right? And while that's not my case in any case or any capacity, um, I wanted to read the book to help find intimacy, right, in my day-to-day conversations with my wife, and have a true platform. And when I say intimacy, I don't mean sex and being freaky and all those things. That stuff is there. But just because you have sex with somebody doesn't mean you're intimate with that person, right? But we'll talk about what intimacy is here in a little bit, or what Dominic thinks intimacy is here in a little bit. Now, this book, albeit written for the reasons that it was written for, what it did for me is it really opened my eyes, guys. It really opened my eyes to Dominic, right? Who I was, why I did the things that I did, why I thought the way that I thought. Um, and it was a truly, truly, I'm going to say blessing for me to have even the forethought, right, to even read the book, one, but really apply the concepts and thinking through the actions, right, within that context. So, again, I'm going to share with you what the book is. I just need to figure it out. And if you didn't get it by a couple of the hints that I threw out there, then I promise you, somebody will say one of the books, and we'll we'll just say whichever one I give the thumbs up to or like to, then that might be the right book. But back to why this is important. So I figured, right, with me having that understanding or coming to that realization about who I was. Now, I think I'm a pretty dope guy. Like, at the end of the day, without having read this book, and I'm talking, I'm just dope, right? And I don't say that because I'm cocky. Well, maybe I am a little cocky, right? But I'm confident in who I am as a person, not as a man, but as a human being, flat out. Then the added layer to that, being a man, being a black man, being a um, well-rounded man, right? And having been through a lot of things in my life, and let me tell you, I've been through a few, and probably more than you. But we're not gonna compare stories, um, because this is a journey of healing, right? We want to change the way we thought we needed to be, so that we can push forward to the way we want to be, right? And that's what I'm here for. That's why I think this is an important opportunity for me to share with you from a man's perspective on what I think love is. So this series is what I've deemed the name Fractured, right? And again, going back to what the true meaning of fractured is something broken, right? Not in the sense of broken in half, you can't put it back together. Um, but just as a black man, and this is the nature that I know, because I am a black man, right? I can't wipe it off, right? That's who I am. I was raised by a single mother, and it was four of us, and I'm the baby of those four. Uh, Rest in peace to my father. Rest in peace to one of my siblings. And the way I was raised in understanding what love was, right, or what love meant, then is completely different from what I know now, as probably many of us can say at the core of it, right? Well, at least I hope that you guys say that. If the love that you are showing now is the same love that you were showing then you really need to be in this series, right? You actually should probably be the person that I'm talking to sitting right next to me, right? Because, and again, that depends on your age, right? But if you're above 21 or 30, especially, and think that things should be the same as they were 5, 10 years ago, then this is exactly where you need to be, right? Um, we have lost, right, as men, what it means to love somebody. And maybe the reality of it is we just didn't know, right? And what we thought love was really wasn't love. And what we thought what being in love meant really wasn't meant. That's why I think this is important for us to have common sense dialogue about love, intimacy, and emotions, right? The three key factors that Dominic, right? And I'm sure there are a lot of you that feel the same way, whether male, female, right? Non-gender exclusive, non-binary, the whole 9 yards. Feel is needed in your relationship so that you can feel like the relationship that you're in is the relationship that you've always wanted to be in, that you've wanted to have and hold for the rest of your life, right? And so that's why I think this is important, right? Because what we once thought love was didn't include emotions, right? Now, of course, the word love is a set of emotions in itself, but what does that mean, right? What does it really mean to have emotions about a relationship that you're in? What does it really mean to have emotions about the person that you're in relationship with? What does that really mean, right? Does it mean I'm sitting around crying and woe is me all day? Emotions don't have to be bad. And those are some of the things I think we have so misconstrued that we forgot what true emotions were, right? Because if I think about emotions and the role it plays in the relationship, it's it happens every day. I could pick up my phone right now and send a text to my wife to say, "Hey, I love you." That will immediately spark an emotion from her that's like, "Oh my God, that's my baby," right? Or a text or call from a spouse to a husband saying, "Hey, listen, I was thinking about you, and I'm at the store, and you know, I can't remember if you have a shirt or something that this color, but I think you look really great in it." That's going to spark an emotion in him, saying that, "Oh my God, man, she really like thinks about me and cares about the things that, right, I have or I need or I want, or just listens to me," right? Then you got the component of love and what love means. And we talked about, a little earlier what unconditionally loving somebody meant. Now, I must agree, right? I didn't always understand what that meant. And in complete transparency, I may not really understand the totality of what it means right now. But my perception of what unconditionally loving somebody means is when I tell you that I love you, when I tell you, yes, I want you to be my wife or or my husband or whatever the scenario may be, that I am saying to you emphatically that no matter what, I got your back. And if I got your back, there's nothing you can do that would ever take me away from you. Period. Right? And let's think about it, right? Let's talk about that, right? Because we say "I love you" all day. We walk our hands up. We walk to the little altar, or justice of the peace, or on the beach in a private, exclusive place, or in our backyards, or in our living rooms, or wherever we get married. All of the places, the venues that we get married, we're saying to the person standing in front of us, "I love you." And there's nothing you can do that would ever change that, right? Yet, we get divorced. Or we become hateful and we become these things that are completely opposite of that day that we said, "I do," right? I'm not testifying, I'm not in court. But that's what we are essentially saying when we divorce, right? Is my love does have conditions. It does. And if we can say that my love actually does have conditions, then maybe that's not the person that you should be with. Or, right? Or maybe what we think about what truly loving somebody means or isn't the thought process that we really have, right? And so that's why we got to redirect that idea, right? Now, I'm not suggesting it by any capacity that you stay married to an abuser, physical abuser, right? That somebody that's just beating you down physically and emotionally. Because again, if I'm telling you I love you, I ain't doing that anyway, right? So you ain't gonna tell me that I love you, but yet you're mentally abusing me or physically abusing me or sexually abusing me, because that's just not what love is. It's just not. So, and again, that's male or female, because contrary to popular belief, women can be abusers as well. Um, Now, of course, statistics will tell you that mostly it's men, male to female. But there are instances and there are numbers that say it can be female to male. It doesn't matter. Either way, somebody that said, I love you, wouldn't treat me like that. Here's an example, right? Um, I'm retired Army, right? And my wife is active duty, right? Um, and some of the things that I do to make sure that when she comes home is, right, making sure the dishes are washed. You know, kids are doing whatever they need to do, right? Clothes are put away. She don't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm gonna come home and it's gonna be a complete mess. I'm not doing it because I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing that because I love you, right? Those are some of those ancillary things that say, oh wow, I love you, right? And it's not for her, right? I'm not doing it so that she can say, oh, he loves me. Oh, you didn't have to do that. I do it because here's the tricky part. The less time she has to worry about cleaning up behind me or picking up behind me or the kids after a long day of work, whether her and I both work jobs or not, I can still do my part. But the less time she's worried about doing some of those things, the more time we get to spend together, building that emotional connection, building the intimacy, not sex, but intimacy, right? Having a deeper connection with one another that expressed through love builds our relationship to a stronger platform, place, right? And that relationship, that building of that relationship will hopefully, right, transition to our children, right? So that they can understand that this is what love looks like. It's okay to be emotional in a relationship. And here's what intimacy looks like. And I'm sure y'all kids probably do the very same thing if you have children. Me and my wife, we may be in the kitchen or in our bedroom or wherever the scenario may be, right? And we embracing a kiss or something, and of course the kids around there, like, but in the back of their mind, when they get older, when they do it, they're going to understand that that's what we were doing. We were being intimate with each other, connecting with each other, being present with one another, and showing our love and affection for one another. right? Her and I, we also have a joke. My wife and I, we've been together, almost 13 years, 14 years. Don't tell her I said 13. Um, and honestly enough, while we've had some challenges, um, like anybody, it still feels like it's the first year that we've been together, right? It still feels new. And I think part of that is because you're constantly learning each other, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're all want to do, right? We want to know our partners to a state that allows us to know them without batting an eye, right? So that's what this is about: love, emotions, and intimacy, and how we as men and women, right, can do better at showing it, right? So again, this is not one of them, and no disrespect to the brother, but this ain't one of those act like a man, think like a lady skits. This is not that, right? It's more of an understanding of how we can connect with one another on a deeper level in order to get the emotions and the intimacy out of our relationships, and more so what we need in our relationships, right? The intimacy components, the love, the affection, the attention, not just the gifts and all of those things, because I love you, that comes. And I want to show you those things. So there's all these books out here that tells us about what love is and what emotions is and what emotional intelligence is. All of those things I'm gonna talk about a little bit, right? Um, and that's the bottom line. So how we get there is understanding love, right? Again, love is an intense feeling, right, of deep affection for the person that you're with, right? Having a great interest and pleasure in something, or it's having some type of, again, just a deep affection for something. In this capacity, that deep affection is my partner, is my spouse, is my significant other, it's my children, right? It's my family, it's my siblings, it's my mother, my father, my this, my that, whatever the scenario may be. And understanding how those relationships work so that the interconnectivity of those relationships can blossom, right? I was looking at a TED talk not too long ago, and it was talking about how this one European population, um, the average age, right, of the people within this small community, right, um, couple hundred people, right, couple hundred, maybe even 1,000 people. I can't remember specifically, but it was talking about how the community members survived, right? How they survived so long, and their average age is being 90 plus 100 years old, right? That's the quote unquote average age of the people in the community, right? And it has been ongoing like that for the longest. And the reason that wasn't because they drank, although I'm sure there's a lot of drinking going on, but it was based off the relationships that they had with everybody in the community. So that got me to thinking, what if we did that? What if we use the idea that our relationships with one another extended my life? Think about that. Seriously. If the relationships of the people within my community, within my circle of friends, within my city, within my state, I mean, you can go micro, macro, with family, your household, your community, right? Your subdivision or your neighborhood or whatever the scenario may be. If we applied that same theory, that same concept, that same thought process, that I could extend my life, right, by the relationships that I have with my people to my right and my left, how phenomenal would that be? Think about that. Instead of dying at such a rapid pace that we are, and frankly, young brothers and sisters are dying at such a rampant rate, right? What if we took that same idea, that same practice, not idea, but that same practice and applied it in our everyday lives? Imagine what that could do. Imagine the relationships that could be formed from such. Imagine that, right? So, those are the things that when I think about what love, emotions, and intimacy mean, those are the things I think about. I, I I would love to believe that the people in my circle got my back. I know they do. That's not even a question in my mind. If I pick up the phone right now and say, "Hey, bro," or "Hey, sis, listen, I need you," and my wife could do the same to the same dudes that I'm calling to this, or I'm calling her girlfriends. Hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z for me, without there being a why you calling that, or why you got his number, or why. Because the relationships that you have in your life, in your circle, because of the relationship you have with that person, that line would never be broken. Not because it can't be broken, but because we have such an affection, love for one another, our connection. Because of that, that's not even something that I would even ever even consider. I can promise you these things. There's never been somebody in my life that's been a bro of mine that will ever say Dominic tapped or did this to one of my, and I'm talking friends 35 years, right? Not one would ever even think that that was an opportunity that would have ever come up. And if it did, it was shut down. But I say that to say these are the principles, characters, and values that we live by, that I live by, right? When I when I mess with you, I mess with you. It's that simple. And if I don't, then a lot of people tell you they I don't mind you knowing I don't. It's just that simple for me, right? I am You'll learn a lot of things about me, but you'll know I am very sincere in what I say, right? But again, that's what it is, right? And then when we think about what that love is, right, that comes with emotions, right? So our emotions, right, it's just an instinctive state of mind, right? That it comes from circumstances, right? Could be deaths in the family, could be your wife purchased or husband buying you something. It could be that phone call to say, "Hey, I love you." It could be based off your mood, right? You had a bad day, or you had a great day, right? Or you just had one of them in between days, or you're just trying to figure it out, right? But it's all derived from some state of mood, some capacity, some circumstance, something occurred, so you have an emotion about that, right? And I think that as it relates to relationships, excuse me, we tend to devalue our own emotions because we don't want to hurt the other individual in the event that it would be a negative response. But the true authenticity of who we are as a person, right? And in the relationship, it requires that, right? It requires me to be emotional to you. It requires me to tell you what I'm going through, not so that you can fix it for me, but so that we can have a conversation about it, regardless of what it is, right? Because maybe there was a misunderstanding. I've had plenty of those misunderstandings with my wife. I've had misunderstandings with people and friends that I have, but we're able to talk about it, even in the workplace. But we're able to talk about it and discuss those things so that we can move forward, right? You don't let these moments in life dictate the rest of your life, right? They happen here. You when you can, and if we can, we leave them there. Bottle it up. Martin, not Martin Lawrence. Will Smith said it in Bad Boys, right? When he had that whole skit about Martin Lawrence talking about his mom tits and or boobs or whatever scenario may be, and he's like, "That's the last time you're gonna talk about my mom. We're gonna put them in a box and we're gonna throw them in the sea," right? That's kind of how we have to do when things happen, right? We need to deal with them in the moment, right? Or deal with them at another moment. But we need to be able to package it up so that we can deal with it when it's at a more appropriate time. Because sometimes, right, in the heat of moment, that's when things happen that we don't always mean to happen or say. And so we say those things and then you really can't take it back, right? You can't, right? We can apologize and we can do all of those things, but you can't take it back. You just can't. So that's that, right? And then we determine what intimacy is, which is my favorite part, right, of conversation and having conversation with people. I think there's a misconception that intimacy explicitly refers to sex. Newsflash, it don't. It doesn't. And if we are doing it right, if we're really doing it right, intimacy should occur on a daily basis, right? Um, and the reason it should occur on a daily basis is because for that very reason, I'm in love with this person. I love this person. I have emotions with this person. It's only right for me to make sure that before you leave, when you come, throughout the day, or whatever the scenario may be, that I let you know that we are connected, right? Now, at the end of the day, not every day, guys, not every day. Oh, and some of you girls too, y'all be trying to do a whole lot with us, right? We can't do all that, right? We ain't 30, 40. I mean, well, some of us do go that way. But the point of it is, right? At the end of the day, or whenever that moment, right, comes, then that intimacy piece that's just been hanging over us the week, the day, the few hours or whatever it is, that's where we really make our connection, right? And real. And that's where, you know, in my opinion, the idea of what love making really is, right? I'm making love to you so that you can feel me, right? So that you can feel my love for you, right? I'm not just thrusting you just to come. I, that's not, I mean, that's the goal at some point, but that's not the intent, right? The intent is so that you can know how I feel about you. And how I feel about you helps push our relationship further, right? And so, in a nutshell, that's what love, emotions, and intimacy about. And that's where this series, Fractured, is going to dive into those ideas. We're going to have those conversations with myself, with other common people like you and I. And we're going to talk about some of the things that might be hard to talk about, but we got to figure this out. All of us, right? Um, we got to figure this out, right? So again, my name is Dominic, and I'm here with you, right, to talk fractured, right, being broken, right, and walking through the steps of what healing may look like, walking through the steps of what um, love, emotions, and intimacy, walking through what this should look like, right, from my opinion. And again, I'm no expert. So if y'all know experts, or if you're an expert yourself, and if there's anything that I'm sharing that doesn't make sense or you challenge, please tell me, because I want to be better in my relationship too, right? I'm not perfect and I don't strive to be perfect, right? I strive to be the best Dominic that God made me. And in doing that is where I think I align myself with the structure of what love, emotions, and intimacy is. I am of the opinion, right, that if we do this right, this thing called living life on earth, um, that at the end of our death, right, that's when people will say he was a good guy, right? He was a good dude, right? He was a great father. He was a great husband. He was a great mentor. He was a great friend. He was this, he was that. That's what I would want somebody to say, right? When I'm laid out. Because I want to put back in the earth what it's given me, and it's given life to me. At some point, I'll share my stories of, being living in the hood and being from the hood. I'm from St. Louis, so North Side stand up, let's go, right? North Side STL, but I'm STL through and through, babe. I'm a lunatic. I'm a West Sider. I'm a North Sider. I'm a South Sider. Now I'm not an East Sider. However, we give them much love, right? But I've lived all over the place, right? Um, Again, I'm retired Army, so I've been various places. I've seen a few things. I've witnessed, a lot of different things. So um, I've even had my heart broken, right? But I think anybody or most of us has, and that's okay because that's what makes us who we are, right? But I appreciate you spending your time with me. I'm gonna try to do this on a week-to-week basis, and we're gonna make it happen. Right? We're gonna sit here. We're gonna have conversations. I'm gonna call this on the couch with Dominic. Right? And this series is fractured. Right? This series we're talking about here is fractured. And we're gonna just sit on the couch and we're gonna have some conversations with some good people. And I'm gonna let you guys drive the conversation as it relates to what love means. And at the end of it, right? Um, I pray. My prayer is that we just be better. Period. That's it. Right? There is no expectation of you being having going out and learning and having the the most perfectest relationship you've ever had from these conversations. That's unrealistic. But what's realistic is you going out and doing your very best to have what's close to a great relationship and doing your part. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a relationship with someone or you get into a relationship with somebody and that relationship ends for whatever reason, you can say at the end of the day, I did everything I was supposed to do. I did my part. Win. Now take that learning lesson to the next relationship. Not baggage, but the learning lesson from it to the next relationship. And that's how we're going to end this. Up next, we're going to talk about what emotional intelligence is, right? And how what being emotionally intelligent uh, does for love, emotions, and intimacy, right? Because that's how we drive the conversations, right? Understanding who we are, our own self awareness, and somebody else's place or position where they are, and then using what we would be considered our social information, right? And then using all of that data to be emotionally intelligent about conversations that we have with our in our relationships, and you can even use them at work, right? But that's who we are. This is fractured love, emotions, and intimacy, baby. Let's get it. Who want to be in love? You get in love. You get in love. You get in love, and that's how we're gonna do it. I love y'all. Peace.